Are you feeling overwhelmed by hormonal changes? If you're a woman, you're not alone. With over 1,000 hormone disruptors in our environment, it's no wonder things can feel out of balance. On top of that, natural changes like PMS, menopause, and other life stages can leave you feeling tired, irritable, and trapped in a constant battle with your body. But here's the good news. You don't have to suffer through it. Hormone Harmony by Happy Mammoth is here to help. This herbal formula fine-tunes your hormones, balancing estrogen, testosterone, and even stress hormones like cortisol, which can contribute to weight gain, racing thoughts, poor sleep, and more. With over 40,000 five-star reviews and a bottle selling every 24 seconds, the results speak for themselves. Ready to feel like yourself again? For a limited time, get 15% off your first order at happymammoth.com using code NEXTCHAPTER at checkout. Visit happymammoth.com today and get your old self back naturally.
All you homeowners have unique needs. Some feel the need to paint their door a vibrant shade of blue. Others have the need to decorate their bathroom with fish, anchors, and other nautical items. And because each homeowner has unique needs, Geico helps you get the right coverage for your home and what's in it. That way, you get exactly what's right for you, even if your needs are unique. Get more with Geico.
Coming up on episode 286 of Wheel Bearings, we do some driving on ice and snow with Infiniti vehicles on Bridgestone winter tires. Nicole drives the Jeep Grand Wagoneer L Obsidian. Sam gets the Nissan Pathfinder Platinum. Tesla has to recall some of its FSD software. Ford has problems with lightning batteries. There's a fix for the Hyundai and Kia theft problems. And where should the charging ports go? All that and more coming up next. This is episode 286 of Wheel Bearings. I am Sam Abdul-Samad from Guidehouse Insights.
And I am Nicole Wakelin, and this week I'll be from Forbes.
And I am Roberto Baldwin. I'm going to say I'm from the Wall Street Journal's Buy Side.
Ooh, fancy.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm a day late on my article, but I'm there.
They don't need to know that. Don't tell people that.
Tell people you're late.
Is that what is Buy Side? Is that a special?
It's like Wirecutter. It's like
okay.
Wirecutter. I'm doing e-bikes for them.
Oh, excellent.
So
Wait, you ride e-bikes? You're an e-bike guy?
I have an e-bike article going up on USA Today's Reviewed.com at some point, and then I have this other one going up. And it's actually, I really like the e-bikes because you can kind of just do these short little trips around your house, and I'm sort of out of shape because
maybe you could get an e-bike and ride that up to Napa and back.
Yeah, I probably
just put that in the back of the Hummer.
There's one of them that I could.
When you get to the hotel, you can ride that home and then ride it back the next morning.
When I was supposed to pick up a Rivian once from one of the like little showrooms that they have. And they're like, oh, it's here. Can you make it there? And I was thinking to myself, I'm like, oh, I have an e-bike. I'll take an e-bike to Bart. I'll take Bart down to, I think it was in South City. And then I'll get off, and then I'll just ride the e-bike, and I'll throw the e-bike in the back of the Rivian, and then I'll drive it home. And they're like, oh, no. We'll just bring it to you. I was like, no, it's perfect. It's like.
Because I need to put some miles on the bike anyway.
Yeah, you have to put, you're putting like, I put 50 miles on the bike, which doesn't seem like a lot when you drive cars all the time, but
it's a lot when you're on a little bike.
But it's an e-bike, it can go farther than that on electricity. So
yeah, it's about 30. Most typically they're about 30 miles, 25, 30 miles for the e-bikes. We live in a very hilly area, and I'm heavier than I think. Well, I don't know if I'm heavier than most people, but
you're tall.
I am tall, so
You're tall. It's all that height. Those large, broad shoulders.
Yeah, it's
long bones and everything.
Look how long this arm is. Just one arm.
Imagine if you added both in there. That's a lot of gas.
Oh God, that's a lot of arm.
No, wait. Oh, there's the other one. Anyway, e-bikes are great. You should, if you. Especially for cruising around.
I did finally get a chance to try a couple of e-bikes. One in November when I was at the Electrify Expo in Austin.
How'd that go?
I had never ridden an e-bike before, and I tried 3 different ones, and it's pretty cool. If they weren't so darned expensive, I would consider getting one.
How much does an e-bike? Now that you're the expert, Robbie, how much do they typically run?
15, you can just get a good one for like 15 to 2,500, which is, but when Which you're like, wow, that's expensive. But have you priced out bicycles recently?
That's a good point. I guess the ones that I had a chance to try were more like $4,000 to $6,000.
Yeah. It's just,
What made them worth more? Why are they fancier? Like, why are they that much more?
I
Robbie?
honestly have no idea.
Sam's like, I don't know. I don't write about these.
It's accessories, the builder, how it's being propelled. I mean, a lot of them use a hub on the back, which is less expensive, but there's like a mid-drive system where the power is actually coming from the cranks, the things you pedal.
Yes.
And those are typically a little bit more expensive, but they're a lot better because that's, it's
okay.
It's like putting. I'm trying to think of the best way to. It doesn't. Anyway, that's why they're more expensive. You can go and look up e-bikes, and I'll have an article.
Okay. I'm gonna have to read your article. Wait a minute. Now I'm curious.
Buy side and I don't know how long it takes. If it's like Wirecutter, it'll take a few weeks of edits before it goes live, which I'm totally fine with.
As long as you get paid.
As long as I get paid. No, the very nice folks over at Buysider, they're very nice to me. I don't know why people are nice to me, but they are.
Because once they get to know you,
they're afraid I'm going to get them with my long arm. I'm just going to reach out and grab them. Hold on.
All right. What have you been driving with more than two wheels?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, I was going to talk about the EV6 GT, but I haven't done all the calculations. There's a lot of math for this article that I'm writing. So I haven't done the calculations yet because I went to Montana and I saw somebody there, a fine gentleman by the name of Sam. But I drove.
Wow, there's somebody by the name of Sam who's a fine gentleman. I can't imagine that.
Well, there's one in Montana because there's only like 12 people in Montana.
Yeah, that's true.
But apparently they're all super rich. I don't understand.
I think so. Yeah.
All I can think of now is I started watching Yellowstone.
Yellowstone.
And everybody in Montana is a gangster / horse wrangler. Now,
they're all and I like to call him like Cowboy Batman because he has a Cowboy Batman voice. And now you'll never not hear that. Every time he talks, he's like, I gotta save the ranch. My family fought for this ranch for hundreds of years.
Oh, God damn it.
It's the same thing over.
He does sound like Cowboy Batman.
Sounds like Cowboy Batman.
All he needs is a cape.
Or at least,
make that meme. You guys are savvy. Make up a thing of him and like Cowboy Batman and just put a little cape on the back of
Is that Kevin
with
Costner?
little pointy,
Yes.
little pointy ears on his hat.
And the first, we've watched 4 seasons. And by the second or third season, I'm just sort of hate watching it because it's just ridiculous.
It's ridiculous, and I love it. I need to find season 5.
Yeah, that's where we got to we could pay for it. Like, nah.
I know. I can't even. That's where I'm like, okay, got to pay for this. But then there's the prequels, and for those of you who are into cowboy stuff and Kevin Costner, watch Yellowstone.
it's anyway. We're not a Yellowstone podcast. Not yet.
Could be. Okay, go ahead.
So I went to Montana.
Well, I can say I have not watched a single moment of that show, so I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay,
it's fine.
Cowboys, gangsters, shooting people.
It's weird. It's like Dallas for. Yeah, it's not good. It's just like, it's entertaining, sort of, sometimes, if not infuriating, at least. QX60, I went and drove the Infiniti QX60. I think we're going to talk about it, too. So that's we could just talk about that now if you want.
Yeah, let's do it now.
Let's do
All right.
now.
So we we're sort of Blizzak stands on this
We
this
absolutely
podcast.
are.
We are.
I believe we have mentioned specialized winter tires once or twice on the show before.
Yes.
We kind of like Blizzaks. We kind of like winter tires. Mm-hmm.
So Sam and I were both on separate waves. We were in Montana, and we got to drive the new ish Infiniti QX60 on Blizzaks, on snow, on ice, like ice you just can't stand on. You'll fall down because I almost fell down on it trying to put a GoPro on. And they gave us a lot of leeway compared to some other ice driving programs I've been on. Some of them they're like there's someone in the car with you, making sure you don't smash their car into the snowbank. Some of them they have someone on the radio like yelling at you. This one they were like, okay, go.
I love they'd be like, we have someone to coach you, and that coaching is slow down, slow down, slow down. It's like I feel like I'm being yelled at.
No, actually,
you know what it is on the wave before I was there the day before you. The day before us, there was a wave of how should I put this without being too condescending?
Lifestyle
lifestyle people.
and
And there was apparently one person there who had just got a driver's license like 2 months earlier.
What?
Yeah, and had never driven on snow or ice. And on the ice slalom that he talked about, apparently on the second cone went straight into the snowbank, and this was on the first pass through where we had to follow
the slow cone.
Yeah, where we had to follow the leader. Because on each of the exercises, on the first pass through, we followed one of their professional drivers through, so they could just show us, which way we're supposed to go. And so on that first pass, the lead and follow through the ice slalom, that this person went into the snowbank and was quickly followed by another lifestyle person who bounced off the back of their vehicle.
Oh my gosh! They hit each.
And then on my wave, the pro drivers that they had there, the leaders were so impressed by our level of skill with driving in snow and ice.
You've all had your license for more than 6 months.
2 months.
What I'm really confused by, because I was invited to that program as well and couldn't make it, and I was really sad because I love ice. I love winter driving. Just let me slide around on the snow.
It was a hoot.
I love it. It's so much fun. But so when they're picking, like, okay, we're going to invite this person, that person. This person writes for this outlet, and this person writes for that outlet. And I'm going to invite a name. Let's invite Mike, who's had a driver's license for 2 weeks to drive in the snow. Is that not something you vet at a time? I feel like that should have been something maybe someone should have
You might think so, but
I feel like a ball was dropped, and as a result, a car was smashed.
I guess, do you know, like, how, I mean, without looking at the paperwork for cars that we get in, do they know when we got our driver's license?
Well, but like, if
they know when it's expired.
Here's the thing. If you just got your driver's license 2 weeks ago, Robbie, nobody knows you because you haven't been doing this.
Hey,
haven't been
come on, let's not exaggerate. It was 2 months ago.
Sorry. If you just got your driver's license 2 months ago, nobody knows you because you haven't been doing this. So you're still a new kid on the block. So you'd assume because you're the new kid on the block, you've only been driving for 2 months. It's not like you have a wealth of driving history and reviews behind you. You're new. You have to know you're new because you just appeared.
I do. I mean, I don't know specifically who was on that wave, but the impression that I got was it's people who aren't normally reviewing cars. It was
lifestyle wave.
Yeah,
But you know what? As
they were talking about the place we were staying and the experience and what it's like to drive on snow. Coming from a very different perspective than the one that we might normally offer.
The light there is, and I feel very strongly about this, despite the fact that there were some bumper cars happening at this program. Apparently, there is something to be said for the lifestyle person who gives an interesting perspective on things.
Yeah, because we're all going to say the same thing.
Not everybody wants to hear. Blizzaks. Yeah, that's what we said. So unless you want to know that, but I think they give a really to the person who's like, I don't want to listen to a bunch of gearheads talk about cars. I just want to get more fun and what was it like, and that actually is really valuable. So not at all what we're generally doing, but still valuable in its own world. I don't want it to sound like we're just we're
harping on the influencers.
Right.
There is a strong value to influencers. I like the influencers. They can be fun too.
Certainly, on Fast Women, you and Eileen, a lot of what you talk about the cars and your experience with the cars, but you also talk about the larger experience of the trips that you're taking, the places you're going, and so there's a lot.
The adventure.
Cool.
Sometimes the adventure is it's not just the car; it's the adventure. But there's some lifestyle folks out there that I adore. One named Claudia. She's my favorite. She has this really cool, puffy red coat. I think she was on that. Hopefully she wasn't one of the people who smooshed a car. I'll have to ask her. Hopefully it wasn't Claudia. Okay.
Smooshed a car.
Smooshed a car. I know that. It sounds so much more delicate than what actually happened.
Yeah. But, so I didn't smoosh any cars.
Good job, Robbie.
Did you smack any snowbanks, though?
I did not smack any snowbanks.
Can you make that the title of this episode? Smooshed cars and smacked snowbanks.
Smooshed cars. It was because they allowed, part of the program was, put the car in snow mode. When you put in snow mode, and you can see where if I were driving on the road, especially if I wasn't used to driving on snow, how helpful that is. Because as you're turning the wheel, it reduces the amount of acceleration you can input. So that's great because sometimes you're turning and then you're putting your you just So yeah, no, it was really helpful.
But you're not exaggerating there. In fact, you're very much understating that.
You just turn it, and all of a sudden, no acceleration.
Yeah, when the stability control is turned on, and you're on snow or ice, and you've got the wheel cranked, you can put your foot all the way down the accelerator pedal all the way down to the floor.
Nothing.
Nope. Nada.
Nothing. Which is good. Which is a good thing, because you just slide off into nowhere. Yeah. Because. But then they were like, oh, put it in sport mode and turn off the traction control, and they're like, yeah, and then you can feel like how well those Blizzaks work, especially on the ice.
They were shockingly good
on the ice slalom in sport mode with the traction control off. I mean, they're sliding everywhere, but it is so much better. It's better than walking on there, because I tried again, almost fell down while trying to put a GoPro on the car.
I'm even more sad that I missed this, because I would have liked to have seen the flail that probably went along with the almost falling.
My arms are so long.
Like, one
arm.
Oh my God, Robbie's falling. Everybody.
One arm was in Montana, yet the other one made it all the way up to Canada.
Exactly. That would have been great to see.
No, it's always eye opening when you drive around on those Blizzaks, and you have in a controlled environment where you're not there's no potential for you hitting other. Well, I guess you could other cars. You can't
scratch that. Strike that.
Limited potential to get
to get into trouble. It was great, but it's also a great reminder. Like even with those Blizzaks, even with traction control, even with ABS, even with everything, at the end of that ice slalom where we were just riding on a sheet of ice, you're like, okay, now slam on the brakes, and you still slid for a good 5-10 feet.
And to describe what this was like, actually it was a lot more than 10 feet. Yeah, the maximum speed that at least Perry Stern and I we were driving together. The maximum speed that either of us saw on the ice was about 23 miles an hour. So you're going through this pretty good like slalom, and the most speed you can get up to without losing it is about 22, 23 miles an hour. And then you get to the end and slam on the brakes and you slide for, probably another 50 or 60 feet.
You smack another 2 cars is what it is.
Yeah.
Like, as you're slamming on the brakes, and if you've ever driven in the snow and you know what happens when you put on the brakes and all of a sudden you're not stopping, there's a car just like, you're just barely like, no.
Yeah, you're just waiting. Oh God,
yeah,
please.
This was definitely, if you've been driving on this and you slammed on the brakes, you would hit the car in front of you with enough force to have them hit the car in front of them, to have that person hit the car in front of them. That's so when the authorities are like, hey, it's really icy, it's just a sheet of ice, don't drive, maybe don't drive.
Yeah. Stay home. Or stay wherever you are.
Even with some of the best winter tires on the planet, you're
unless you're driving something with studs, that's about the only way you're going to get any significant traction.
Yeah, and most places I think they've outlawed them or outlawing them just because they're so horrible to the road.
Yeah, it depends. Like in Scandinavia, especially in northern parts of Scandinavia, where the way that they handle the roads in the wintertime is they don't actually they don't use any salt or sand. They plow the roads, so there's a layer of packed snow on the roads basically for the whole winter. And so you're almost never coming in contact with the pavement. And so their studded tires are allowed and in fact encouraged.
Yeah. They know what they're doing, though.
Yeah,
they do. They get kind of a lot of snow.
We're all trying to. I was trying to do the flick a lot with the QX60, which is not built for that. I got it a few times.
You don't think?
It's not built for flicking.
I don't know. I feel like we'd have to check. I feel like it is. I feel like you're terribly mistaken.
What kind of speed did you get in the figure eight? Or what was your time in the figure eight?
Oh, at the end it was like 32. I got third, but I had I had a horrible. The first circle, like as you're going in, I both times it was just horrible, because I was trying to flick it and I didn't, and so then I just understeered all the way through, and I'm like, oh my God. And then I added like 3 seconds to my time with that. I'm like counting, I'm like 1, 2, 3, like trying to like correct and then come back out. So I ended up getting third, and I was very disappointed.
I also got third, but by the time that we were doing it at the end of the day,
It was icy, huh?
Around the inner portion of the circle was pretty polished. All of the snow had moved to the outside. So for my second timed run, I actually went wide around the outside where there was actually some snow to get a grip on, and I managed to get like 29.7.
Oh, see, that's what I should have done.
But the guy, and I came in third. Perry did like a 29.3. The guy who won.
Who was it?
It was Kurt from Edmonds. I don't know his last name.
Okay.
And he got like 27.5. He was like 2 seconds faster than us.
Wow.
Did he flip? Was he able to drift it, or was he just like on the outside?
I think he just went wide like I did, and managed to get a better track than I did.
Because if you could have got a nice drift around that, especially wide, you're looking like a 25. But nope.
I think it's funny how like 2 seconds doesn't sound like a lot unless you've ever done anything like. But it's a lot when you're driving. Like when you're trying to, for speed, 2 seconds is like.
Especially, I mean, this was not a particularly large figure eight course. I mean, you're talking 30 seconds, to get through this thing. And 2 seconds is a pretty substantial difference.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just counting them like 1, 2, 3. Somebody's like,
I know. You just feel the time ticking away as you're understeering out towards that snowbank. And it's just. And hitting the bottom. And then the other thing that we had to do at the end of this was we had to stop. We had to hit the brakes at the right time to stop inside of this box that was basically just slightly longer than the QX60. So we had to figure out where to hit the brakes so we could stop in time. And if you went outside of the box, you got a 5 second penalty.
Did you go outside of the box? Did you slide right through the box?
I did on multiple occasions, but on my timed runs, I did not. So
anytime I have something where I have to stop inside of a box on ice, I don't. I either stop way before the box, so like the grill is in the box because I'm so worried it'll slide through. I'm like, wait, that's not right. Or I stop on the other side of the box, and it's like the exhaust pipe is in the box, and the rest of me is out. I'm like either way through. I'm like, don't put a box at the end. Just give me a thing to stop at. I'm okay. Don't give a box. Apparently I don't like boxes.
I hit the box twice at the end, I think.
Oh, shush.
That's what essentially would help me get third, because I was like, oh, this sucks. Because it had gotten so icy and snowy that the stop where you applied brakes before, it was now like a car and a half before that. So as soon as you came out of that figure eight, as soon as you were straight, like you could maybe go half a car length before you had to put the brakes on. Because everyone missed the box. People just...
One of the interesting things that we learned, even when you turn off the stability control on the QX60, there's still a torque vectoring system on the front and the rear axles that just uses the brakes. So when it's detecting slip on one side or the other, it'll apply the brakes to the side that's slipping and send the torque to the opposite side to try to get some grip. And on the oval course that we were doing, I heard this grinding sound as I was going around the corners, and what that was actually it was applying the brakes because I was going rather swiftly. And by the time I finished and I opened the car door to let Perry get in and drive, it's like, ooh, brakes, cooked brakes.
Oh, geez, you can smell them.
I took the brakes on the slalom because I was drifting back and like I was doing wide drill. I'm like, whee! So by doing that, because I was accelerating, letting off right at the apex and then hitting it again, so the car would slide. So the car was like, oh, I got to do the brakes. So I had some melted brakes because of that. That's sort of the weird thing about those brake based vector systems is that torque vectoring is that it's you can cook the brakes. There's a Ezra over at Car and Driver. He had the Raptor. The Bronco Raptor, and he was on the sand dunes, and the brakes are essentially on fire. There's video.
So you can just smell little flames shooting out as he's driving along.
So go over to Car and Driver, look up Bronco Raptor Ezra, and there should be a video. Yeah, there should be a video or a photo or something, but like you can see the rear brakes are just glowing red.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Did you get a chance to try the Q50 at all?
No, I was trying to do is just make the focus on the new car. It's capturing video, and so there's, when you're capturing video, like all the sort of like, hey, you want to try this other thing? Like, no, hey, do you want to eat lunch? I'm like, I don't have time for that.
Food's for losers.
Eating's for chumps.
Yeah, no one eats.
Perry and I both got a chance to do a couple of laps of the figure eight in the Q50, which is the last remaining car from Infiniti now that the Q60 is gone, and so the QX60 is based on a front wheel drive architecture. It's transverse engine. It's the same platform as the Pathfinder, Nissan Pathfinder, and it will deliver up to 50% of the torque to the rear axle, but it's front biased, whereas the Q50 sedan is a rear wheel drive platform, and it's more rear biased, and it is one that is definitely a lot easier to do the Scandinavian flick and get the back end of that thing around. But you can feel it, when you're going through some of those maneuvers, as it's shifting the torque, doing the torque transfer back and forth between the front and rear axles. You got to be paying attention all the time and ready to respond if it does something at any point where you weren't quite expecting it.
You can't be not ready or you're in trouble.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's like, woo! Oh well, now I'm pointed the wrong direction again.
Yeah.
Dang it all!
But no, the QX60 was really nice to drive. Driving up from, we stayed in Big Sky, and we drove up to West south to West Yellowstone Airport, where they had the track set up for testing, because the airport gets so much snow that it's closed for airport operations through the winter. So they had some courses set up on the taxiways and runways there, and also had a snowcross course, sort of a rallycross course, which was also a lot of fun to try out in the QX60.
Yeah, it had elevation changes and everything, which I'm always fun. It's always funner when you're doing those snow drives when you have elevation change.
I think any track's more fun when there's elevation change. When it's just straight, it's not as fun. When you come up a hill and you're like, what's on the other side? Whoa! It's always kind of exciting. I love that moment. Oh God, turn right.
Nicole's always driving around the edge of cliffs.
Yeah, cliff.
And when we get some decreasing radius turns with a late apex, trying to hit those just right so you're not understeering right into the snowbank on the opposite side.
Yep.
No, we had a very enjoyable time and learned a lot about the benefits of proper winter tires. And I had a chance to chat with Iris Ocasio, who's consumer product strategy manager at Bridgestone, about those, and I'll drop that in here somewhere. But it was a good day. So we're here in Montana today, driving a bunch of Infinitis on snow and ice, and one of the key parts of this is that they're all equipped with Bridgestone Blizzak tires. And on Wheel Bearings podcast, we often tell our listeners how important it is to use winter tires. But I want to hear from Bridgestone, what is the importance of winter tires versus all-season tires or summer tires? How do they work differently?
Yeah, so with Bridgestone, English is hard sometimes for me. The differences with tires is really like what conditions you're going to be driving in. Mm-hmm. So we don't have a strong stance. Let me rephrase. We highly recommend, if you're going to be driving in maybe 45 degrees or less on ice, packed snow, we highly recommend a dedicated winter tire. Mm-hmm. Most of the time, if you're in a mixed climate area, you can get away with an all-weather tire, like our Bridgestone Weather Peak, that has that 3-peak mountain snowflake. But if you are, particularly like where we are in Montana, where you are getting a lot of snow and a lot of ice, or any freezing overnight of ice, you definitely want a dedicated winter tire. And the differences here is, with a summer tire, you're going to have a stiffer tread compound. So that's what's going to give you your precision handling, and that's what's going to have more of that stickiness on the tread, mm-hmm. so you can, of course, grab your terrain or grab your pavement a little bit better. With an all-season tire, you kind of get the best of both worlds because it's like in the middle of tread softness.
More of a jack of all trades and master of none, though.
Well, it depends on what you're going for.
Yeah.
So with an all-season tire, it depends because you have also a sliding scale on those as well. Mm-hmm. You have something that's a little bit sportier that of course is going to perform better in a summer type pack. Or you have something that's a little bit more, say this compound's a little softer, that is going to be more of your 3-peak, that's still going to give you that comfortable drive that you're used to in that long that long wear life. But on the flip side, you still have that winter traction that you're used to. Mm-hmm. But when you're going into harsher winter conditions, having a softer tread, which is something that we do with the Blizzak particularly, and I'll get into the multi-cell here soon, that talks about more of the ice side of the equation. With your particularly harsh winters, you want to have that dedicated tire because it is a little softer. So as temperatures drop, especially in your different tread compounds, the tire gets stiffer.
So the rubber itself, the tread gets with a summer compound, it gets harder and it doesn't grip.
At higher/lower temperatures, if that makes sense. Yes. So with winter tires, we call it the glass point. That point is lower, so it's designed to withstand lower temperatures, and it still maintains that tread flexibility.
Stays more pliable.
Exactly. Yeah, that's perfectly phrased. So it keeps that pliability. That way you can still have that good optimized contact patch. That way you can grip better on these wintry terrains.
Because I think the thing people don't necessarily understand about tires is the rubber. When you're driving down the road, the rubber is actually deforming a little bit around the texture of the road surface, whatever that texture is. And so it needs to be pliable enough to get a grip on that. That's how you get your traction. And winter tires are specifically formulated to maintain that in cold temperatures, right?
Correct. Okay. And that's something that we stress a lot, especially with tire safety. It's really important to look at where you're living and where you're driving just to make sure that you have the right tire for you, because truly the tire is the only thing that separates your car from the ground.
Right.
So having a tire that's right for you is incredibly important. And one thing that we've really showcased here today, with the Blizzak particularly, is especially on ice or that packed snow, what really gets you into trouble is that layer of water that sits on top of the surface. And with multi-cell, what that does is that wicks away the water from the surface so you can optimize your rubber to ground traction, if that makes sense.
Right.
And on the flip side, with the softer compound, and especially the sipes that we have in both of our Blizzak products, the MV2 and the LM, which is what we're driving on today, it packs in that snow, because the best traction you are going to get is snow-on-snow traction.
So you mentioned the word sipes. Can you explain what that is?
I can show you a little bit better, but it's all of the little cuts that you see in the tread block.
Those little diagonal slices.
Yes.
That you see particularly on winter tires.
Correct. And you'll see it on a few other,
all seasons have it to some degree. But summer tires don't. They have solid blocks of rubber.
Exactly. Yeah. So, those sipes those slices in the tire and the tread blocks are what's going to give you a little bit more traction so you can, pack in the snow a little bit more.
Okay. And the multi-cell, is that something that's unique to
yes, it is.
To Blizzak tires?
It is. And it's we're incredibly proud of the Japan development that, essentially started multi-cell. And the best way I can explain it is when we are going through the compounding process, so we add a chemical into the compound, and as we're curing that tire and as the temperature rises, that chemical evaporates, and it creates those pores, those divots that are what wicks away the water.
So it creates kind of a porous rubber rather than a solid block of rubber.
Correct. And like my favorite analogy for it is, you know, when you're making a cake and you have all of your like liquid ingredients and then you bake it in the oven and you pull it out and you cut into it and you see all of the pores. That is exactly what's happening with these tires.
Okay. And so the water gets wicked up, the water from the ice surface, because as you drive across it, or, you know, just the sun shining on it, you're going to have a little bit of melting, a thin film that gets wicked up into those cells so that you get direct rubber on ice grip. Okay.
Yeah, that is exactly right.
Okay, great. So what else should people be thinking about with selecting winter tires? You mentioned the 3-peak symbol. Can you explain for people what that is?
Yeah, that is the 3-Peak Mountain Snowflake certification. So it is a industry standard certification that shows that you have a tire that is capable in like light winter conditions. So more of like your packed snow type conditions, really. That still gives you that traction. So if you're like me in Nashville, where the city shuts down when there's a threat of snow or ice, but you still need to be able to get out. Like that is a great candidate for an all-weather tire. Now again, if you're here, you definitely want more of a dedicated winter. And that's kind of how we differentiate. And one thing that I want to call out specifically is when you start seeing your breath. That's maybe when you want to start thinking about changing into your winter tires. Especially if it is consistent. And if it's like 6 months out of the year, you definitely want to have something that's going to give you that traction. And also it expands the life of the tire. So of course, storing your winter tires as you're switching them out is incredibly important. We always recommend that you clean them off, keep them away from the sun to avoid any UV degradation, but really having a well-maintained winter tire is going to get you through a couple of seasons, or a few seasons. And
even with winter tires, even if it's cold but you don't have any snow, it's still important to use those winter tires, right?
Absolutely. Like if it's cold, you still have that almost like mini layer of ice that sits on top of the surface, and having a winter tire is really important for that. Now, if you get warmer climates where it kind of melts, at that point you can kind of get away with a 3-peak. Or with an all-weather tire. Great. And then, of course, your standard all seasons are going to deliver like mild winter performance. And it's going to give you more of that comfortable, traditional, like long tread life and that comfortable ride that you're used to. But that's really just a very personal decision on what you're driving on, and of course vehicle safety. So having a good tire is really going to help you out in these scenarios.
Yeah, as you said earlier, the tire is your contact with the road. It doesn't matter if you have a car with 100 horsepower or 1,000 horsepower. Those 4 little patches of rubber is all that is transmitting all that power to the road, and for your braking as well, and steering. So if those 4 patches of rubber, about the size of the palm of your hand, aren't getting a good grip, doesn't matter what else you got, you're not going anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. It's truly astounding how much your ride can be improved or worsened by the tires that you select. So that's why I think it's super important that you reach out to your favorite tire professional, figure out what works for you. We do have quite a bit of offerings, but really figuring out what you're trying to do with those tires as well is really important.
Yeah. All right. Well, Iris, thank you very much.
Smartphones have gotten way more expensive over the past decade, and all it takes is one impact on a hard floor to make you wish you had spent a few bucks to put a case on it. Going online without ExpressVPN is like not having a case for your phone, and it only costs a few dollars a month. Nicole, Robbie, and I travel a lot for our work, and we spend a lot of time in hotels, coffee shops, airplanes, and of course the Delta Sky Club. Connecting to the Wi-Fi in any public places with shared Wi-Fi puts your data at risk because bad actors could be intercepting what you send and using it to steal from you. It only takes some cheap hardware to intercept Wi-Fi data, and even a smart preteen can do it. Hackers can make up to $1,000 per victim selling personal information on the dark web. ExpressVPN stops the bad guys by creating a secure, encrypted tunnel between your device and the internet. ExpressVPN uses state-of-the-art encryption that would take a supercomputer up to 1 billion years to crack. I have ExpressVPN on all my devices, including a MacBook Pro, Windows laptops and desktops, and Android and iOS phones and laptops, or tablets. When I want to be secure, I just launch the app, click once to connect, and my data is secure. As I said, I travel a lot for my work, and I have to connect to countless public Wi-Fi networks in many countries. I have ExpressVPN on all my connected devices so that whoever else is on the same network can't see any of my data. That's important because I often have to check banks, credit card accounts, and transmit client data that might be sensitive, as well as filing articles on news that might be under embargo. ExpressVPN protects all of it, and I've been paying for my own account for years. Secure your online data today by visiting expressvpn.com/wheelbearings. That's expressvpn.com/wheelbearings, and you can get an extra 4 months for free. expressvpn.com/wheelbearings.
At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Ranked #1 in innovation for 10 consecutive years and #2 among public universities for employability. ASU isn't just ahead of the curve, it's creating new paths to success. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online, that's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
O'Reilly. Check engine light on? Take the guesswork out of your check engine light with O'Reilly Veriscan. It's free and provides a report with solutions based on over 650 million vehicle scans verified by ASE certified master technicians. And if you need help, we can recommend a shop for you. Ask for O'Reilly Veriscan today.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Did you know you can support Wheel Bearings directly? Head to patreon.com/wheelbearingsmedia and you can become a patron today. Your contributions will help fund the platforms and tools we use to bring the podcast to you. And exclusives and improvements are already on the way thanks to your generosity. So if you want to be part of an automotive podcast like no other, head to patreon.com/wheelbearingsmedia. We've updated the Wheel Bearings merch store, and now there's a whole bunch of new choices, new colors, new styles, T-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, hats, mugs, travel mugs, stickers, aprons, tote bags, you name it. You can get your Wheel Bearings merch at shop.wheelbearings.media. Go check it out. That's shop.wheelbearings.media.
Yeah, any day you get to do ice driving.
But it was
like Bridgestone has like a winter driving.
Oh, have you ever done that? I did that.
In Colorado.
Have you guys done that
I think it's Colorado
point?
Springs.
It's in Colorado. So if you're like, you have money.
But you know
you're
what?
in Colorado.
And they offer
really
a thing
fun.
where they do, because I was talking.
And they teach you how, like they teach you like the things to do. They did like
and they'll also teach like kids, like not little kids, but like if you're a new driver,
Teenagers.
it's
2
brilliant.
months.
It's
2 months
brilliant
in
for teenagers because they will help teenagers learn the right way to do it before they learn the wrong way to do it.
Yeah, I'm always a big like when my wife wanted to learn how to ride a motorcycle, I was like, oh no, you're going to take class. Don't learn from me because I'm sure I've been doing things wrong for. At that point, how old was I? Like 20-something years, like 30 years, 25 years. I've probably been doing things wrong. So don't learn from me. Learn from a professional who's going to tell you the right thing.
Yeah, Steamboat Springs is the Bridgestone Winter Driving School, and they've got a variety of different classes, safety classes, performance classes. They'll do group and custom classes, and you can I'll put the link in the show notes. It's winterdrive.com. But it's definitely worth considering, especially if you live somewhere where you get these kinds of conditions. The basic safety class is actually only $625, which is not bad at all.
Like, it sounds like a lot of money, but guys, you get like, if you have it, you learn so much from these guys because they put you in controlled-ish situations, and they also teach you like, how would you do this? And you do it, and you think like, yeah, I got this. He's like, I'm going to tell you why everything you did there, you didn't do the way you should have done. So they let you see how the wrong way, and then they'll have you do it completely the wrong way to show you if you completely fumble a situation, this is how the car handles. It's very, very good at teaching, and it's worth the money as a safety thing. It's an investment in your safety.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
It's pretty great. Like just the steering, like, don't, if you steer too hard, you're sliding, unwind your steering. You're like, that seems counterintuitive. I just do it. Just do it. And all of a sudden you catch and you'll do your turn. You're like, oh, wow. Yeah.
And they let you do things over and over. You're like, I don't get it. And all of a sudden you feel it. You're like, oh, if I do that, you're like, that's what you're trying to get me to learn. Got it.
And they'll teach you how to shuffle steer.
It's the kind of stuff that you won't learn. You won't really learn on your own. And you certainly won't be able to learn it in a safe environment on your own. Mm-hmm. You do need to get some training to do this. And I know, I was fortunate, I started my career in engineering working on ABS systems and, got thrown in the deep end, doing winter tests. And I learned so much about driving from that experience, and that is one of the things I miss about my engineering days is, doing the winter testing, because you're exploring the limits of the vehicle in that controlled environment. And you learn a lot about how the vehicle behaves and how you can control it and be a safer driver. And it makes a huge difference. It's definitely worthwhile. And even the top class, what they call fifth gear, fastest ride on ice class at the Bridgestone school is $3,300 for, looks like it's a 2-day class. But like I said, the entry class is first gear, is $339. The second gear class is $625. So, you could take those two over a couple of days, for $1,000, and you'll probably, for the average driver, you'll probably learn pretty much everything you need to know to be safe on the road in any conditions.
Yeah, and it's especially especially if you don't especially you don't want to teach your kid bad habits. That's the other thing.
Yep.
Or unlearn all your bad habits.
Yes.
Yeah, unlearn everything that you thought you were doing right. You're like, I've been doing this wrong my whole life. Oops.
Yeah, because if you haven't done something like this before, chances are you have bad habits that need to be unlearned.
Like you don't think you do. You go in thinking like, I'm fine, I got this. And even I think every time I drive anything like if it's like a racetrack or whatever, there's always some little thing. He's like, see how you put your thumb like that on the steering wheel? Don't do that. I'm like, why? He's like, move your thumb. Oh, and like they tell you these little things you don't even know that you're doing, and it's like, how did that make a difference? So the more you know, the more subtle and detailed the instruction they give you. They will find something you're not doing right.
Yeah.
And probably the single most important thing to learn, whether you're on snow or ice or pavement, is keep your eyes looking where you want to go.
Yes.
Don't look off to the side. Look where you want to go. So you're looking through the corner you're coming up on, towards the next one, and if you look in the direction where you want the vehicle to go, your hands will generally follow.
Yeah, your body will make you do that.
Yeah,
I can still remember like they were having us push these vehicles, and kind of there was an area where it's like you're going to push and people are going to end up in the snow here. Like you're going to do this. Like they knew it was going to happen, and I really went in the snow, and I like totally was like, oh God. And he's like, everyone else is going like sort of like say slightly to the left. I went a little bit more to the right. He's like, so where were you looking? And I'm like, to the left. He's like, I don't think so. I think you were looking over here. Look where you want to go. I was like, okay, I'm sorry. So I always think of the guy telling me, look where you want to go. And as I'm stuck in the snow,
you want to go.
Men are digging me out.
If you look at a cone, you're gonna hit a cone.
Yep.
So what did you think overall of the Pathfinder, Robbie? The Pathfinder, the QX60.
QX60. It's not. I think, again, I think Nissan has, recently sort of dug itself out of this hole that it's been in for a couple of years. I talked to them a little bit about that, and they're like, yeah. I think the QX60, we drove it up there. I sat in the back seat on the way to and from the airport, drove it in the snow. It's a good car. I applaud them for sort of, it feels nicer than previous Infinitis that I've driven. It's they're doing the right thing is what they're doing, and it can be difficult, especially in the high end for that's the Nissan luxury brand, and you can get lost as that brand. I mean, Acura sort of got lost in there for a while, and sometimes when you drive a Lexus, you're like, why wouldn't I just get the Toyota version of this? And so, it's I think the QX60. it delivers, most of everything that someone wants from a luxury brand. It's comfortable, massage seats, comfortable in the front, a lot of leg room in the back, appropriate, power, appropriate, drivability, all-wheel drive, which everyone wants now. And of course, the snow mode. So if you're out in the middle of, Montana and you're hitting snow or ice, or if you're in Michigan or really anywhere where there's snow, you'll if you have Blizzak's awesome, but if you have all seasons, you have snow mode on, you should be fine as long as you're not driving like a maniac. Slow down. That's everything in the snow. A lot of snow driving is like slow down and think ahead. Like anything you think you should have done, do that way beforehand. If you feel like you should stop, maybe lift off and then slowly press the brakes 5 times further than you normally would.
Yeah, I mean, one of the first lessons I learned as an engineer working on anti-lock brake systems was Newton was right. F equals ma.
Who knew?
Absolutely true. You reduce that acceleration, reduce that velocity, the forces become much, much lower. And,
mass, man.
You have a much better chance of surviving. If you just slow down. Cool. All right, Nicole.
Yes.
What'd you drive?
I drove the 2023 Jeep Grand Wagoneer L Obsidian.
Ooh.
Nice.
Yeah. So I had a very fancy, very expensive luxury SUV this week. Anyone want to take bets on the pricing of the 2023 Jeep Grand Wagoneer, can't even say it, Grand Wagoneer L Obsidian 4x4?
I'm going to say
pricing?
somewhere around $115,000.
Okay, what's your price? Yeah, I'm just going to make you do price. Forget this destination.
I was going to say like 110, 112, but
you both lose.
Oh, yeah.
You both went over. It's actually, it's actually the one I had as equipped in Nicole's driveway right now is $107, $107.30.
I should have said $1. I don't know why I said.
Yeah, $107,030.
Oh, okay.
And it's the base on this.
So it's not quite as well equipped as the one that I drove a little while ago.
Probably not. I guess not. So the
that
base
one's closer to 115.
Yeah, the base on this one before you put bells and whistles. I mean, it already has them. Before you put more bells and whistles, is $98,000. But this one has, and I love this appearance package. It has the Obsidian appearance package, which basically just murders out your SUV. It makes everything black, and that is $5,500. I would totally do that for all the black little bits and pieces, and it's a cool appearance package. I like it. I think a black car looks cute when it's cool when it's like all black.
Yeah.
There's no color, just black. It's like Batman. It's just black.
It's hard to be stealthy in something as massive as a Grand Wagoneer L.
But you try. Well,
no one's gonna see. No one's gonna see me.
No one's gonna see me. I'm all in
just
black.
gonna fade into the background.
I'm the size of a tank, but no one will ever notice me. Well, it was funny. I went to get like I do. I went to Crumble Cookies to get cookies, and as I was waiting for them to bring my cookies to the car, the guy's like,
"Did you send some to Jim Morrison?"
I did not send some to Jim, but I was like, wow. I'm like, this, the guy's like, this car is really cool. We were looking at it out the window. That is really cool. I'm like, thank you. As he's, reaching up to hand me the cookies through the window.
A little step stool so you can get in.
Yeah, a little step stool so you can get in. I was going to take my mom out to lunch, and I'm like, I don't think she can get in this. Even with the running boards that deploy, the automatic running boards, which, okay, so you guys like those that they deploy automatically?
I don't like them because I'm tall.
Yeah.
I'm tall, so they sort of get in the way for me.
Would you rather have the fixed ones? They're there whether you want them or not, or the ones that go kutuk and close up? Because I have strong opinions on this little tiny feature.
Well, I would say it depends. If like the Wagoneer has an air spring suspension, so when you put it in park, it lowers itself down. Mm-hmm. So it's not quite as critical to have those deployable running boards, or just running boards on something like that. But I guess, if you are of not quite as tall as Robbie or even myself, you might appreciate having that extra step up there.
But not the extra step, a deployable extra step or a fixed extra step.
I'm going to say I don't like the deployable ones only because the reason I would have a vehicle that tall was because I was taking it off-road. Or I was driving I was driving somewhere where there's probably going to be salt on the road. Okay. So I'm driving it in very harsh conditions, and that's under the car. So it's just going to get destroyed. So I do. You know what I do like? I like the little metal bar that comes out that has a little sandpaper on it.
Oh,
some cars
sort of a rock rail, I think.
Like a rock rail almost.
Yeah,
just so
I like those better. I like those better.
I don't like the ones. I do like the Rock Rail one better. I don't like it's really neat and it's this cool fancy feature and it's huge. Like it is a large step. Like it's
like
not,
this. It's like a bed.
Yeah.
It's like 6 feet.
You can surf on
like it
these
comes
ones, yeah.
out and there's like a family of
There's a
kittens
little
sleeping
pillow.
on it.
Yeah, you could just like, oh, sorry, we were napping here. But what I don't like, and this isn't a Jeep thing. This is just these kind. If you don't timer, if you open the door quickly and you step out. It
gets you.
That's a good point.
Gets you.
Yeah.
So because if it's just there already, you're stepping over. When it comes out, it's like if your foot is too fast, it's like it's coming down as your foot is coming down. The number of times I've gotten dirt and salt and whatever all
on the
against
back of your
my
leg.
pants. I'm like, gosh, dang it. So I have to remember to sort of like wait and step. So I just want them to always be there.
As a woman of
Or not
action,
at all.
I can see how that would be very annoying.
As a woman of action, yes.
You're not like opening the door and then waiting. You're like, I gotta go.
Right. I'm like, I'm moving. Get out of the way. I got a plane to catch. Yeah. So
You just got to be a little more relaxed. Take your time getting in and out.
Woman
At
of
this
action.
point in my life, the women of action. I'm going with Robbie saying, I am a woman of action. I need the running boards to be ready the instant I step out of the car. So, but I really like this. I mean, the thing is, it's huge. I mean, and this is the L, so it's a long wheelbase. So it is absolutely gigantic. I drove it to the airport. And oh god,
Did people just start getting in?
Well, yeah, exactly. People are like here for the ride. But the thing is, so I
People
go
standing there in the aisle with their bags, waiting to step in.
waiting to step in. So the Sumner Tunnel, the bane of my existence, which is this beat up tunnel that you have to take in and out of Logan Airport, and it always feels like you're going to get like you don't have enough room to drive it. In a Miata, it feels like you don't have enough room. In the Jeep Grand Wagoneer L, I swear to God, my heart rate was like up, like, oh my God, don't hit the wall, don't hit the wall, don't hit the wall. It's so close. It feels absolutely huge. And it is a challenge to park because it's just so big. You're coming around, it's like cruise ship sized. If you can get over this, if you can get past the size, like if you want a big SUV, if you can get past the fact that the challenges of just driving a big vehicle, I really like this. I think it's very smooth. That air suspension is fantastic. So it's very controlled. Like you would think this giant thing is going to like, wobble around. Mm-hmm. It doesn't. It's actually a really nice ride. It's super comfortable inside. I mean, it is really comfy. The captain's chairs in the second row, I could just sleep in those. I could just like if I had a kid that I had to drop off at practice, I'd be like, just knock on the window, guys, because mom's going to be asleep in the second row while you guys are playing soccer. It is such a comfortable interior. And what I really like, and this is something that Robbie would appreciate, you can actually just get into the third row and sit there. Like, it doesn't matter how tall you are. I had my husband get in. He's 6'3", and it's not even like you have to squinch your knees. It's not like a narrow spot. It comes so far forward. Like, you can just turn and step right up into it. There is such a large space between the second row seats and the entry into the third row. And you can sit back there without, like, he's just kind of sitting. Like, he's not, like, his knees aren't squished. He's not having to, feel like he's mushed. That is a spacious third row for that vehicle. If you're a tall guy, this is a good car for you if you're going to get stuck in that third row.
Cool.
Yeah, no, and to what you were saying about, the feeling of the size, like going through a tunnel, from the first time that I drove the Wagoneer, 2021, I think, is when they had the drive program for that.
So that sounds right.
Driving that thing in Manhattan was nightmarish because the Wagoneer is 4 inches wider than a Ford Expedition or Lincoln Navigator, and 2.5 inches wider than the GM SUVs, the Suburban and Tahoe and Yukon and Escalade. So it is far and away the widest of any of these.
Right.
So you really feel it, when especially in urban areas, you feel that the lanes seem to be encroaching on you.
Exactly. It's like you're in some like movie and the lanes, it's just getting, when a hallway stretches out in a nightmare and never ends, you feel like the lane's just getting narrower and narrower and narrower as you're driving along. So, I mean, and that's like, don't buy a great big SUV if you're not ready to deal with that. Like that's any SUV problem. This particularly with this one, because it is bigger, but any big SUV. But I mean, my gosh, it's got passenger room for miles, cargo room for miles. It's got the tech. It has 3 screens in the front of the car. You've got actually 4, I guess, if you count the instrument cluster, but there's like the big infotainment screen, and there's one that actually retracts below it. You push a little button, it goes whoop, and it retracts sort of into the dashboard, but otherwise it has like the massaging seats and the heating and cooling and the temperature that you can control from there. But behind it, there's a little bit of storage and like your USB ports and little like nooks and crannies to put your stuff. And then there is a passenger screen that I rightly could not see this time, other than that existed. I could see the outline of it, but I can't see anything that's on it because I shouldn't be able to because I'm the driver and I shouldn't be able to be distracted by whatever's happening halfway across the car like that. So you've got that screen in there. It's got 4-wheel drive. It has, I just love that they call this a 3-liter inline 6. It's the Hurricane twin turbo, 510 horsepower, 500 pound-feet of torque. They say 14 miles per gallon city, 19 miles per gallon highway. That is not fantabulous, but if you are spending $107,030 on an SUV, I would hazard just a little guess that your fuel economy is not such a big concern for you.
It's like,
Yeah.
Like
I have my own.
It's still a
oil
thirsty
field.
beast, though.
It is a thirsty beast. So there's no denying it's a thirsty beast, but it's a thirsty beast with a Hurricane under the hood that moves. Like you mash the gas pedal on that and the thing really moves. It gets out of its own way, which
Considering this thing weighs 3 tons. You know.
Right. That's, and you sort of, you feel this is a large, heavy vehicle and it feels that way. Like it feels substantial. I don't want it to sound like it feels like this Ponders thing. It just feels substantial. You're in a big SUV that's designed to be comfortable and bold and in your face, and that's exactly what it does. But it is expensive. It doesn't get great fuel economy, but otherwise it has deployable running boards that I dislike, but otherwise I love it.
So one more question for you.
Yeah.
As far as the design goes relative to the standard length Wagoneer.
Yeah.
Some people have said that, because basically what they did is they added 12 inches to make the L.
Right.
And I think half of that is in front of the rear axle. The other half is behind the rear axle. So the rear doors are longer. The seats are actually in the same position. So you don't actually get any more third row seat room, but that doesn't matter because there's plenty anyway.
There's so much
But you have
there.
a lot more cargo space
Yeah.
for, up to 8 people. But what do you think about the proportions of it now compared to the standard Wagoneer?
Well, I think the standard, it doesn't, a foot is, it's a small amount, but it's a huge amount. I mean, that's a good, put your hands out, to see a foot. That's a good amount of space. It makes it, it just looks huge. The regular Wagoneer, Grand Wagoneer, you see it, it's like a big SUV. This one is almost like an in your face. Like it is so much
Like a
larger.
train.
It is really large. It's going to attract attention just for sort of who the heck needs a car this big? That's the question you think when you see this. Does she have a family of 20? How do you need this
It's
much
the Brady
vehicle?
Bunch.
But if you have a lot of people, you have a lot of cargo, you want to be able to tow, and you want to have all this luxury, it puts it together. I think I like the look of the standard wheelbase better, but it's not, if I had to pick, because I'm spending that kind of money, I'd pick the standard wheelbase. Also, I don't need that extra cargo room. But if you need it, by all means, go for it. But if you look at them in profile especially, there is a difference.
That's really the only place where you're going to see a difference is in profile.
You look at the profile, you line them up next to each other at the dealership before you spend your $100,000, and you look and you see, do I really want it to look that big for the extra foot of cargo room? I don't know. Do you need that extra foot of cargo room?
That's dude. If you're picking up executives from the airport, it's great.
Right.
That's a good point.
Yeah. So that was the Jeep Grand Wagoneer L Obsidian 4x4, which, I liked. Overall, 2 thumbs up. Like it.
2 thumbs up.
All right.
2 thumbs up.
All right. I had the 2023 Nissan Pathfinder Platinum, which is why I kept getting
Calling everything a
confused with the
Pathfinder.
QX60. Under the skin, it's basically the same thing as a QX60. Same platform, same powertrain and everything. But where the QX60's got a little more upscale, luxurious, sleek
fancy
look to it, and much nicer interior, more premium looking interior. The Pathfinder, especially this current generation that they launched a couple of years ago, has it's pulled in a few design cues from some of the early Pathfinders of the 80s and 90s. So it's a little more rugged looking, even in the Platinum trim that I had. They also have the Rock Creek, which I was originally scheduled to get, but things happened, and so I ended up with a Platinum instead.
Did it up in a creek?
Huh?
Did it end up in a creek?
Did it go in the creek?
No. It's just I needed to get it a day earlier, and it wasn't
they didn't
available
have
yet,
it?
so they
Okay.
gave me the Platinum. But anyway, the look of it, compared to the previous generation Pathfinder, which was kind of nondescript, blobbish,
It was depressing.
It was kind of depressing.
It was because the Pathfinder was like
Did
this
you
really.
call it blobbish?
I did say.
When the Pathfinder came to market, it was so cool looking. You're like, oh, it was like an adventure. It was like an adventure SUV, and
The
it had
original
like
Pathfinder.
Yeah, and it had like if it had 4 doors, you couldn't tell because the other 2 were sort of like disappeared into the side because of the chicken tax, and which is a whole other thing. If you get bored, you can look up on Google. But yeah, and then it got the opposite of that.
All right, before I go on, I got to ask, what are you sewing?
No, the dog like somehow messed up the cat's toy, so I'm trying to fix it.
It looked like he was sewing.
Yeah.
It was like
taking a stitch or two.
So the dogs are in here and he's destroying it. So if I don't fix it now while he's
funny.
staring at me,
I also thought Robbie was sewing, and I was going to ask him, like, what are you sewing?
I figured it was a costume for one of your bands for an upcoming gig or something, but you never know.
Yeah,
Anyway.
someone asked us to wear something sparkly for a gig, and I'm like, all right.
Oh my gosh.
So anyway, the Pathfinder, it's got a little more chunky, rugged look to it now, which I think is good. The proportions are good. It's got kind of the blistered fender look of the early generation Pathfinders. If you look in the grille, you can kind of see the 3 horizontal slots that were there on that first generation. It's a good looking vehicle. The interior is roomy, not quite as roomy as the Telluride that I had the week before. And particularly in the cargo area, the Telluride had more cargo space behind the third row than the Pathfinder has. But if you're not using that third row, you can always drop those seats down and then use that extra space, which is what I did when I dropped off my wife and her best friend at the airport last week for a little trip they're taking. So that this is, it's well equipped. It still has the same basic infotainment system that Nissan's had for many years, which is fine. It works okay. Nothing special. It does have Android Auto and Apple CarPlay wireless support. The Platinum does have a little more upscale interior than some of the other trim levels of the Pathfinder. Not quite up to the level of the QX60, which is fine, based on kind of where it is in the lineup. You don't want it really overlapping the Infiniti, because then otherwise, why would you buy an Infiniti? 284 horsepower, 259 pounds-feet of torque from the 3.5 liter V6, 9-speed automatic, intelligent all-wheel drive. Let's see. There's a mode selector for drive and terrain modes. It can tow up to 6,000 pounds, at least in theory, when properly equipped. It's got the ProPilot Assist lane centering system, which I don't know if we really delved into that when we had Kelly Funkhauser on the other week, but that one ranked up pretty well. I think it was like number 4 overall in their rankings. It's a pretty decent system.
I like that one too. I think it's good.
And 12-inch instrument cluster display and a 9-inch center touchscreen. All in, this one came to $54,785, including delivery. You want to guess on the delivery charge?
$9.95.
What'd you say, Robbie?
I'm gonna say $1.
Nicole wins it. It's $12.95.
I knew it was going to be
that's
more,
close.
but I just wanted to say $1.
So it's interesting.
In my heart, I knew it was more, but I just wanted to say $1.
Sure, whatever you need to say to make your excuses, that's fine.
In my heart.
This one and the Telluride, very similar vehicles, in terms of the market they're going after, and they're priced within $300 of each other. So it's and a lot of these more premium trim level 3-row upper mid-size crossovers, are all getting into that lower to mid $50,000 price range now. So it's really and they're all pretty good. So you kind of have to look at it and say which one's designed, Palisade or Pathfinder or Telluride or Explorer, which one's design appeals to me, because they all have, Highlander, they all have pretty similar features and characteristics to them. So it's just, what do you like the look of, and which one's actually available on a dealer's lot or to order. So yeah, the Pathfinder Platinum 4-wheel drive, it's a pretty decent SUV. It's rated at 22 miles per gallon combined, 20 city, 25 highway. I think I averaged about 20 overall with it. It was kind of cold when I had it, so it's not bad at all.
Thumbs up. You like it. Would drive again.
Yeah, it was fine. All right. Let's see. Let's delve into some of the stories of this week. The F-150 Lightning has been getting a lot of positive reviews over the past year since it came out.
Yes.
But now they've had probably their biggest issue to date. They have had to do a stop sale on stop delivery and shipment on the F-150 Lightning because they've got an issue with battery packs. I spoke with someone from Ford the other day. They weren't able to share much or really almost any detail at this point, but they did tell me that the fire that occurred actually occurred in the factory before it was shipped. It's not clear if it was in the factory or in the lot, but somewhere before it left the factory and was shipped to a dealer, they had a battery fire in one of these, and so they're investigating it. They think they have a fix for it. Right now, they've got to stop. They've stopped production for at least 2 weeks, but hopefully they'll have a fix soon. Ford wouldn't tell me if the problem was with the battery pack assembly or whether it was a problem with the cells, which is the problem that we had with previous battery fires from GM and Hyundai and BMW. Those were problems with the cell manufacturing. It's not clear exactly where the issue is on this one, but hopefully we'll find out soon.
Yeah, that's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of Ford's top selling. It's one of the top selling EVs that's not a Tesla. And there's a big backlog for them. And Ford right now is still making changes. They're working on. There's a lot of construction going on at the factory in Dearborn where they build these to ramp up the production rate to 150,000 annually by this fall. And so hopefully it doesn't take them too long to sort out whatever the problem was and find a permanent fix.
Yeah. I bet they'll find something quick. This isn't exactly a vehicle that they can afford to just have sitting around chilling. They need to. This one, a lot of people want this one. Got to get it moving, boys. Figure it out.
Yep.
The fact that they're going up to 150,000 units a year is pretty insane because not a lot of cars sell 150,000 units. I mean, the top 10, but then after that, it falls off dramatically.
Yeah. And, Chevrolet is supposed to start delivering Silverado EVs, at least the work truck, sometime this spring, and then consumer trucks later in the year, followed by the GMC Sierra. And someday, who knows, there might even be a Cybertruck, but I wouldn't hold my breath on that one.
Someday. It's gonna. I really think the Cybertruck's just going to be this little niche product. They sell like maybe 10,000 a year.
Yeah.
Because they're essentially going to have to be hand built. It's the whole idea. Either you back away and say, you know what, we made a mistake, or you just stick with it, and you have to charge an enormous amount for them. Because it's just building them is going to be.
Long suffering sigh.
Well, speaking of Tesla, this week they announced a recall on 363,000 Tesla vehicles with the full self-driving beta software in there. And for issues like this, the terminology is still recall, even though customers won't actually have to take the vehicles into a service center to be repaired. They're going to do an OTA software update, but from NHTSA's investigations, they found a number of issues that they went back to Tesla with and said, hey, we want these things fixed. And Let's see. That includes things like driving too fast, rolling through traffic signals, traveling. Traveling or turning through certain intersections during a stale yellow traffic light. The perceived duration.
Wait, what's a stale yellow traffic light? What does that even mean?
I'm not 100% sure.
I'm Googling just because I've never heard that before. Okay, continue. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Let's see. The perceived duration of the vehicle's static position at certain intersections with a stop sign. So, whether it's actually coming to a full stop or how long it's staying stationary before it moves again. So basically
I know what a stale yellow is. I have a definition. If you didn't enter the intersection until the light was about to or had already turned yellow, you had a stale yellow and are guilty of running a yellow light. So
okay. It's like when you take a left turn, like you're supposed to be out there and waiting and waiting and waiting. It turns yellow, then you can turn still. But if you're still back behind, let's say the crosswalk, and it's yellow and you go for it.
Yes. If it's yellow, you go for it. Yeah. Okay. Which is actually, I knew that. I just didn't know that was what that was called.
So technically that's illegal pretty much everywhere. Also, what else? Adjusting vehicle speed while traveling through certain variable speed zones. So, if the speed limit changes as you're driving down the road, the car wasn't properly adjusting the vehicle speed to the new speed limits. Negotiating a lane change out of certain turn-only lanes to continue traveling straight. So this one is potentially a particularly dangerous one. So if the car was in a turn lane, in a left turn lane, and then decided, no, I'm going to go straight, and changes lanes, over to one of the through lanes, they don't want it doing that either. So Tesla is going to have to make some software updates for this. It's not clear exactly what they're going to change or even when they're going to release this updated software, but they did agree to do these changes based on what NHTSA said. So we'll see when that happens. If it hopefully gets any better. Frankly, I think NHTSA didn't go far enough. I think they should have just told them to stop. Just recall FSD beta entirely because it's just not safe enough. It's just not something that should be in the hands of consumers yet.
Autopilot is the one of all the driver's assistance systems that I've driven over the years. It's the one where when something goes hinky, it really goes. It's like it's all.
That is a technical term, by the way.
Its technical term is hinky.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, it's something. It is. Yeah, there's a lot. Yeah, it's a little like everything else. You're like, all right, this is a little weird. Just all right. I've had cars stop in the middle of the freeway. It's just.
Oh gosh.
It does like really. It's very extreme. There's an extreme reaction.
That's what happened.
Something.
That's what happened at Thanksgiving on the Bay Bridge. A Tesla in I think it was actually in FSD mode. It pulled over to the leftmost lane in the tunnel going through across Treasure Island, and then slammed on the brakes, and then 7 other cars right behind it all slammed into it.
Oh,
I had a Model 3 did the exact same thing in the exact same spot, but going the other direction.
Oh.
What's it? No, it's. I'm trying to think. Is it above, below? Well, no, they're below.
Are the tunnels side by side or because the bridge is stacked? But
they're stacked the bridge is stacked on the San Francisco side. On the Bay, on the East Bay side, it's separated. They're next to each other. They changed it when they had to replace the old bridge.
Right.
But as you come to the tunnels are stacked.
Okay. All right. So anyway, Tesla is going to have to do an update on those vehicles in the not too distant future. Fortunately, the good thing about OTA updates is unlike in the past when an automaker had to do a software update to fix a compliance problem, a legal compliance problem, they had to convince all the customers to come in and actually get the cars updated.
Yeah,
and that often took months or years. And the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration actually has some regulations about when there's a safety recall, a certain percentage, I think it's 75% of the vehicles have to be, the repairs or the changes have to be completed within 2 years. And back in the early 2010s, there was something that Stellantis or Fiat Chrysler at the time had on Ram pickups. There was a recall on Ram pickups, and they didn't get all of them done within that time period, and then they had to pay extra fines.
Oh, wow.
With OTA updates, the manufacturer can just push out those updates and basically have everybody updated the same day. So that's one of the upsides, along with the convenience factor of not having to go to a dealer or service.
Yeah, because that can be a
That's the best
pain.
part.
Because sometimes you're like,
yeah.
oh, you have to drop it off at 7 a.m. and then we'll have it done at 5. And then you call it 4:30. You're like, yeah, it's not done. Do you want your car back? I'm like, yes, I want my car back, but you got to bring it back tomorrow. I'm like, fine.
That was always the way. It's never ready when that's always me. Oh, you have it. We'll have it back to you first. By the end of the day, if you have it here the night before.
We'll give you a call.
Like, no, it's like it's 4:59. Am I getting my car?
All right. So we've been very positive on Hyundai and Kia vehicles and Genesis vehicles here in wheel bearings over the years. And they make some really great products. They're great value. You get a lot for your money, and they drive really well, and they're generally pretty reliable. But
they're super easy to drive, especially when you want to steal one.
Yeah,
If you just would like to take one.
even without a key. I can't remember. Have we talked about the fact that these cars are getting stolen?
Yeah, we have talked about it, that it was a big deal. Yeah.
Okay. So, they Hyundai and Kia, for reasons, probably having to do with saving a couple of bucks, had decided that on their low end, their entry level models that still have a physical key instead of a fob, a push button, they were not going to include a chip in the key to act as an immobilizer or to disable the immobilizer on those vehicles. And some enterprising car thieves found that out, and somebody decided, hey, let's do a viral TikTok video about this. And then after that happened, people started stealing these things in large numbers. So initially, Kia said, okay, we'll give everybody a free club to put on your steering wheel.
Oh, well,
Did they really? I didn't know that. Did they?
Kia would give you a club, but Hyundai wanted you to pay money to fix it.
$170 for an immobilizer kit, plus whatever the installation cost was, which was a few $100s more than that. Well, now this past week they announced that they are going to fix the problem for free with a software update. They figured out a way to fix it in software to basically enable an immobilizer system, and also make some changes to the anti-theft alarm to keep it on longer if somebody does manage to try and steal it. Yeah. So hopefully in the not too distant future, if you have one of these lower end Kia or Hyundai products, you'll be able to get that fix free of charge at your local dealer.
Because in the 90s, if this was an issue, some people would find out, and maybe there'd be maybe there was an urban myth that you could do this thing with Kias that would sort of.
And no one would really know if you could do it or not.
By the time it got to you, it would be wrong. But now you're like, well, we're just going to put on TikTok. The Kia boy is going to put on TikTok. And then everyone's like, oh, this is easy.
In 2 seconds, it's like free cars for everyone.
Next thing you know, tens of thousands of cars are being stolen.
Yeah, I'm a 16-year-old with nothing to lose.
Why the heck not? I could use a car.
All right. Last topic before we answer a couple of questions is EV charging ports. BMW blog had a post up about this, complaining about where every manufacturer puts them in different places. The Kia Niro, for example, has its charging port in the middle of the front fascia, as does the Nissan Leaf, whereas the Kia EV6 and the Ioniq 5 have it on the right rear corner. Tesla has theirs in the left rear corner, in part of the tail lamp cluster. Some have it on the right front fender. Some have it on the left front fender. Where do you think that charging ports should go?
I think it should go on the front.
In the front, because I wrote a whole article about this a year and a half ago about how we should stop putting charging ports on the back, because most charging stations are front. You pull into it, and now you have hold on, let me back into this charging port, and sometimes it's in a parking lot where it has the angled
Yes.
So now you have to drive the wrong way down the lane.
I'm
You got to
100%.
back in, and it's like when I get stuck behind when you're driving through. It's always the guys in the big truck. For some reason, they love backing their trucks in the spaces. So you're going in. They could have just pulled in 2 seconds, but now I got to wait 2 minutes while they back their F-150 into the spot. And now we're doing that with EVs.
I just did when I did the road trip
pain in the butt.
EV6. It's a pain in the butt because depending on exactly how the charging, the parking space and the little protective pillars they have, so you don't back into anything. And the way the curb is, every now and then it's like you have a curb that's very close. They wedged you in the corner of a parking lot, so you have no real clearance. So you're backing in. It's like, just let me pull in and plug in my car, and I can back out where there's not stuff you're trying to line up for. Just pull in. I think it should be on the front.
On the front.
Centered on the front or on the corner?
Well,
Not on the corner, because the corner
I'm fine
is
with the
still
front corner, but I want it in the front. I don't want the rear
front,
corner.
I guess the front, but I want it on the front. I would love it right smack in the middle somehow, because then no matter which side you're pulling into, it's easy to get to.
Yeah, you don't have to fight with
sometimes you're manhandling that, because the cables,
they're super thick.
They're very, very thick. It's not like the cable on a hose for your gas. And if it's cold, they actually are difficult.
They do get pretty stiff.
Then you're trying to sort of bend it to get the connector to line up just right.
You have these two hands. You're like,
yes. There was one where it was cold, and the way the connector was.
Like you're loading a torpedo in a submarine.
It took both me and Eileen to get it to the stupid thing to plug in, because it had been the way it was hanging on the thing. The cord had sort of kinked funny, so it was sort of half frozen-ish that way. So we're trying. It's like she's literally bending the middle of the hose. I'm trying to twist the connector. I'm like, dear God, just line up. I just want it in the front, right in the middle, so you can get this no matter how the hose is and no matter where you are. Strong feelings.
Well, except that's great if the charger is located at the end of the space, the way most superchargers are. There's a few that aren't this way, but most of them, they have them lined up along a curb, and you pull up, or back in, right next to the charger. But a lot of the charging stations, some of them are like that, where you can pull straight in and the charger is right there in front of you and you plug it in, no problem. But others, and there's a couple of charge point DC chargers near me here that are set up that way. But the EA station over here is set up with pairs of chargers, with parking spaces in between them, so they're on the side of the car.
Yeah.
And so it's all over. And I've seen other EA stations where they are set up, along the end. So they're, even the charging stations aren't consistent.
Well, they are totally inconsistent. So one charging station's easy to pull in, another one's not. There's all this inconsistency because we're still figuring it out. So I think we should figure it out. So it's always in the front, and every charging station, you don't pull into a gas station and go wonder where the nozzle's going to be on this one. You always pull up to the side.
Yeah,
your gas tank is always on the side.
But if you're like us, driving different cars every week, you got to remember. Where's
but
the?
Still,
you just look on the.
But still, it's going to be on the side of your car. You're going to pull up, you look and see, am I left or right? Yeah. Okay, you pull up, and you pull up, and the nozzle's on the side, and your car's going to line up with it on the side, and everything's going to be happy with. It's not the same with electric vehicles.
Okay,
all over. I want it to just pull straight in.
So what happens in the scenario, we're starting to get also some charging stations that are set up. They're set up with pull through for charging. So if you're towing a trailer, so it's set up more like a traditional gas station.
Well, you can still pull up with it in the front with the pull through. That's the thing. You can still just stop there in the front.
That's not going to negate you from using that.
Especially if it's right in front. So no matter what side you pull up in the pull through, if it's in the front, it's still going to go over that.
Yeah, it still works. I mean, if they wanted to set them up so they were giant like gas stations, you just pull in and they were all in your gas tank because your gas tank is always on the side, so it's always going to work with a side thing, But I think putting them in the
thing
front.
is, most charging is it's something you do while you're doing something else. And so you're parking as opposed to just pulling through really quickly.
If they start making charging stations that are like gas stations, then it would work just putting it on the side, just like it does a gas station.
If even it's to the front, it's fine, because in the 70s we had a Javelin and a Challenger. It was you pull the license plate down in the trunk.
And it was under the license plate.
It was middle of the back.
Right?
Middle of the back.
It worked.
Middle of the front still works.
Yep.
We've solved the problem.
Done. Okay. Listen to us. There you go. There's
middle front. That's how we have it on our Kona. Middle and front.
Yep, that's what I want. I agree with you. Middle front.
But a little tidbit: if you're renting a car, if you look at the actual gas station, the little gas logo in your car where the fuel station is, there's a little arrow. Yeah, where the gauge is, there's a little arrow that tells you which side your the fueling port is. On EVs, it doesn't have that.
Yeah. What? I was just thinking that as we were talking. I'm like, why don't they have that?
They should have they don't have that. I don't know. I don't understand why.
They should have that little charger icon there with an arrow pointing to
left or right or
actually
forward.
Maybe more of an overhead view icon of the car with an arrow pointing to where the charger is.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you would know, like charger here or charger here, so you could see where
I think there's one car I got in that doesn't have it, but I should have remembered. Now I feel bad because there's probably one person who has it, and they're like, hey!
They're like, we did that, and you didn't give us credit.
Most of them do not have, because I always check, and I'm always like...
What a weird thing that they didn't think to do that. Like, it's such a cool little thing in a gas vehicle. Yeah. Why, when they were designing EVs, like, they're on their own, forget it, they can figure it out.
Well, one of the advantages, almost all of these EVs have digital instrument clusters. So they could easily, update the iconography on the cluster.
To put a little arrow.
Update.
It shouldn't be an arrow, it should be a lightning bolt that blinks.
A little
blink, blink.
There you go.
Like a little Shazam.
Yeah, like a little Shazam. Back right corner. Shazam. Front right corner.
Pew, pew, pew. That's like
I also wanted to say Shazam or pew, pew. That would also work.
Okay. All right. Let's answer a couple of listener questions. Andy C. In the Discord asked, what does the team think about free charging provided to new EVs? For early adopters, this was a great bonus for early adopters getting an EV. However, this has recently caused significant overcrowding at EV chargers and led to bad habits. Example, not moving a vehicle when done charging or charging the battery to 100%.
So I've thought about this. I think you get X amount, like we get 250 kilowatt hours of free charging with our Kona, which we've used like 10 so far. But I think it has to be a time limit as opposed to like you get this much. I think you're like, you get 30 minutes, like BMW has you get 30 minutes of free charging when you go to an EA station up to a certain amount. That I think that'll help. When you just have like, you have 250 kilowatts like I have, I could just go and park the car there and charge to 100% every time if I'm bored and go to like the IHOP that's nearby.
At least 6 times anyway.
Yeah, at least 6 times. But if you have a 30-minute time limit, we're like, okay, it's 30 minutes, and then after that, you're paying. I think the 30-minute time limit will help alleviate some of this sort of like people just parking and leaving their cars there for the free charging.
Do they not?
There's idle charge. You get charged for idle.
I was going to say, I was wondering, does it not give you an idle charge if you have this? So you'd still pay for the idle charge.
Pretty much everybody does that now. Yeah.
I didn't know the way you were saying. It's like, wait, you're still paying extra if you're sitting there not really charging.
Yeah, for the idle charge.
In most cases, I think EA is like a 10-minute grace period. And after that, they start charging you an idle fee for sitting there. And to what you said, Robbie, I think the way that Kia does it on the EV6, for example, you get unlimited 30-minute charging sessions on Electrify America. So you can charge as many times as you want, but each session is limited to 30 minutes. And after that, it shuts off. And, given that, in most cases,
how fast that thing charges.
Assuming the charger is actually functioning, which, given that it's Electrify America, is not necessarily something you want to count on. But assuming it's functioning as intended, you should be able to get pretty much a full charge in 30 minutes, or very close to it. And then after that, you have a few minutes of grace period, and then you've got to unplug it and move it. And preferably do move it. Don't just unplug it and leave it there.
You're the worst person if you do that.
Yeah.
You're just a bad person.
EV drivers that park in front of a charger because it's right next to the store that they're going to and don't actually plug in, that's bad.
I've seen a couple Teslas do that. And I'm like, come on.
You know what I was seeing? And I was trying to decide if this would make me mad if I was driving an EV every day. And you drive one, Robbie. So does this make you mad? When people, there were people railing on a thread I was reading on Twitter about those who charge their vehicle to over 80%. They're very, very, very mad that people would sit and like charge to 85 or 90. Because, you got that sweet spot 10 to 80. And then once you hit past 80, if you're trying to get to 100, you're going to take a lot longer. And people are really angry. But in my head, I'm like, well, that'd be inconvenient. But like, what if you're trying to go somewhere? Like, what if you need the extra charge,
I look at it as, like I had to charge that EV6 GT that I had to 100% because I was doing a drive. and it was part of it was because part of it was this is where I started, this is where I'm going, and so I wanted to charge it up to 100%. But when I do that, I make sure that there's other charging ports. And so you don't
go and take the last available charging port.
Yeah, I always check it. Like usually it's like 6. There's 8 350 charging ports in Nevada, on the other side of the bridge. So I look and I'm like, oh, there's 5 of them are available. When I on my way over there, I'm like, okay, because that's where I want to start my drive. Yeah. So when I got there, there were still 5 of them available. And then by the time I left, there were still 3 available. So I didn't feel like, it does feel weird, like you're charging up to 100%. But if you're going somewhere, I feel like if you're going on a road trip,
tripping,
if you're road tripping, you probably want to just go up to 80 and then get back on the road.
Unless but people were mad. I think the anger surprised me. Like how
was on Twitter
charged, and it was
Twitter is mad. Twitter is just mad.
They were angry, and it wasn't like one guy was angry and was like, "Yeah, those 8 holes you charge up to 100%." I'm like, but what if you don't know drive and you need
they don't understand the situation
for some reason. What if you?
There are some people who are just like, this is how I charge my car all the time, and I'm just going to charge to 100%, and I'm just going to sit there. I'm going to put my bolt on the 350, even though there's a 150 next to it. Like that's when you're like,
people.
They're so someone came up and they were talking because one of the chargers was charging very slowly at the EA station. And they're like, well, you're charging after this. And I'm like, oh, yeah. I explained, I review cars. I'm going on a drive. Because everyone kind of gets out at some point and just starts talking to each other.
Right, you're talking to random people, yeah.
I'm like, oh, I'm doing a big test today with the car. And they're like, oh, okay. And it was very much like, this guy's going up to 100%. I could tell that was the conversation I got out. And I talked to them. And they're like, oh, okay. And then I'm like, do you guys want to sit in the car? And they're like, ooh, they get all excited about that. Because it's the EV6 GT. So they were just like, oh, how fast does it go? I'm like, too fast. It's great.
Very fast. It's speedy quick. Yeah.
All right. Adam J. on Mastodon asked, a while ago I sent in a question asking how to submit feedback to a manufacturer as there wasn't any consistent way to report bugs or request features. Wanted to share that Ford has done something pretty cool in my Mach-E with the latest OTA update. There's now a voice feedback option where you can record up to 45 seconds of any comment you want. Us owners in the forums have been coordinating to send in similar items for common bugs and requests.
Ooh,
pretty cool.
That's smart.
That's really if you're all
great
having the
Ford,
same,
and that's great when you guys all when the community all knows. Okay, this is something that we all think is an issue.
We all hate this.
So
Let's tell Ford we all hate this, so they know it's not just one guy in Idaho. It's everybody.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet. Good job.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Good job on Ford. Yeah. Good job on Adam J's forum
group
people.
And really considering that all of these EVs are connected, there's no reason why everybody shouldn't be doing this. So, the rest of the industry, take note, and pay attention and do this.
Yeah.
All right. Finally, JB says, sorry, I have nothing on those. Nothing on those as I've moved from an. Oh, so this was in response to the comment. He had asked about what we were driving, to see if there were any questions that we had. And I had put in that I was driving the Pathfinder, and we had the QX60 and Q50. So there's nothing of those that moved on from the SUV to a wagon.
Yeah,
but I do like the looks of the new Pathfinder. I do, however, have a sort of odd topic to consider. Generalizations made about drivers based upon what they drive. I know one should never put much faith in such things, but nonetheless, they do get shared online. Historically, BMW drivers have been an example of an inconsiderate and likely not to use their signals. More recently, I've seen Reddit posts on how Nissan Altima drivers are very dangerous.
Really?
That's
okay.
I mean, a lot of I know a lot of ride-hail drivers use Altimas because they've been able to get very good deals on those. So maybe that's it. So he's seen a few examples in Southeast Michigan and New Jersey. But again, is this really a thing? Discuss amongst yourselves.
So I don't know, Altima drivers. I always feel like my thing is Prius drivers who are slow as snails.
So I think riding a motorcycle or riding a scooter around, you start recognizing drivers, and I think the folks that were the most terrifying for me were white F-150 pickup trucks driven by contractors because they give zero Fs about what's going on. They're just like, I got this job. They're just driving around. Sometimes they're probably not even driving their own truck. They just don't care. They park wherever they want to. And that was surpassed by ride-hail, by Uber and Lyft drivers, because a lot of them, especially in the Bay Area, aren't from the Bay Area. They come here because they can make more money. Mm-hmm. And they don't know where they're going. They have someone in the car. They're trying to figure out where that person is. They're not really paying attention. They're looking at the app. They also have another phone. Then they also have their navigation. They have 3 screens that they're looking at.
And half the time they're talking to somebody on a fourth phone.
Yeah, they're talking to someone on the phone. They're trying to figure out where to pick this person up or drop this person off. And they're just driving all over the place. So those are really the most terrifying people on the road. If it's outside of them, older gentlemen and German sedans and young dudes and tricked out cars were typically the ones that I had to be careful of.
Young dudes in tricked out cars are notoriously, well, they're young dudes.
They're young dudes.
Tricked out cars. I think that says the whole thing.
I did have a young dude in a BMW chase me once because
what did you do to engender
because I passed him on my Vespa. And he was just angry. So then he threw a bottle at me.
Oh my God.
I chased him and I called the cops on him. Because
I had someone throw a pen at me once. We were in heavy traffic. Yeah, it was the weirdest thing. We were in heavy traffic. It was years ago. And you know that heavy traffic and like you've got to merge in, like you're getting on the highway. You have to merge in front of somebody, like, when it's bumper to bumper traffic. And I was, we're nicely zippering and I merged in front of the guy, but then the guy was like honked at me and I'm like, well, literally, it was like, you go, I go, you go, I go. And he was like very angry. Like somehow I cut him off. I'm like, dude, we're going 1 mile an hour. Everyone's just merging. It's
a zipper.
Like a zipper. I don't even know what he was mad about. And then eventually he gets into the lane next to me and he waits until he can get right next to me and pulls next to me and he's yelling at me and he threw a pen at my car. I was like, because I'm looking at like, what? He threw a pen at me.
So you know how hard it is to find a pen sometimes, especially in your car when you need it?
I know. I'm like, dude, you're going to regret throwing that pen at me in your weird road rage because I dared zipper in front of you as I got on the highway.
Let's see, the box of pens always ready, like
just ready to whip a pen at a person.
A box of Bic ballpoints.
I just felt like he was so mad. I'm like, the only thing you could find in your car was a pen. Like
he's like looking around. He's like, what do I got? What do I got?
I'm not getting rid of my coffee. I'll throw this pen at her. Yeah.
I got rid of all the grenades I usually throw.
Right.
So
I guess it could have been worse, but it's just such a weird thing.
No more coins.
That must have been like 20 years ago. I'm like, that man just threw a pen at me. Okay.
Yeah.
For merging.
That is definitely an odd one.
It was odd.
In the Discord, Andy C. Responded to this one and said, the new BMW stereotype drivers in the San Francisco Bay Area are Tesla drivers.
Yeah. Are they really?
Yeah.
Which I think is
that's correct.
Yeah.
No, that is.
I mean, I know a number of Tesla drivers who don't drive like that, but yeah, I've definitely seen plenty to do.
When I drive a BMW, I make sure I'm the nicest person on. I mean, I'm a really nice person on the road because we drive so much. I don't get angry and people cut me off. I just like whatever. I'm just like because I still have to do my job and I still have to go where I'm going. I mean, it's not worth the emotional baggage of getting angry every time someone does something stupid just because people are all doing something stupid. But yeah, I see the Tesla drivers are, and I always wonder, and I kind of pull up next to them to wonder, I'm like, do they have FSD on? Do they have, is it them or the car?
Why they're being such terrible drivers?
You or the car? Is it you or is it software? Like who's creating this situation right now?
Well, my friend Henry Payne on his Tesla with FSD, he got a student driver sticker and put it on the back there.
Did he really?
Yeah. After the first couple of days, it was so bad. He just put a student driver sticker on.
The student driver.
Yeah. Which, is not all that inaccurate.
Right. Technically, it's just not the human that's the student. It's the software, but details.
Which is terrifying. But no, there's lots of really great drivers. It's just that you see that one person who says that one thing. It's like when people are like, if you ride bikes, you're like, everyone is trying to kill you. I'm like, well, it's more terrifying when you're on a bike because one just sort of angry person can actually kill you versus the person, like when people who are driving cars are like, this one time this bike rider like didn't stop at a stop sign. I'm like, yeah, but that didn't like put your life in peril. But they base everything upon that one bicycle rider. So it's
Well, and another one of the classic stereotypes, of course, is the Miata, which has long been referred to by many as a hairdresser's car.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
there was a whole Top Gear thing about it, and you're just like, it was. Yeah, it's tired. It's a lazy homophobic trope, is what it is. Yeah, it's a lazy homophobic trope.
Yeah, they're just wrong. So, all right, well, that's it for this week. Thanks everybody for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
All you homeowners have unique needs. Some feel the need to leave up holiday decorations year-round. Others have the need to use their garage as practice space for their new metal band. And because each homeowner has unique needs, Geico helps you get the right coverage for your home and what's in it. That way, you get exactly what's right for you, even if your needs are unique. Get more with Geico.